Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special presentation, a YouTube live stream on Go Small, Live Large. If we're meeting for the first time, howdy. My name is Scott Watson. Welcome to my YouTube channel, all about van life, Go Small, Live Large. And if you're a longtime viewer, I really appreciate you being here. We're competing with a few events today, including National Go RVing Day. Apparently, there's a big, beautiful birthday parade happening. There's some protesting going on, and Pope Leo is not at, but doing a big hoopla at the Soldier Field Stadium in Chicago. So I am thrilled to have you here with me tonight. And what I want to do is just kind of share some of my other passion, which is bourbon. I was a little surprised that today, June 14, is National Bourbon Day. I'm like, why not celebrate that a little bit in this world that we're living in currently? So this is what I'm going to talk with folks about tonight. And I'm very curious about what kind of your bourbon preferences and what experiences you had with bourbon. We're going to kind of focus on bourbon specifically. We're going to do a little bit of 101 quick. I've got some tasting. No, we compete with the cats. Get down. That's okay. I've got a tasting. Here's the bourbon layout for over there. So I'm definitely not having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tastings. I'm only doing 4, very small amounts. And that's what we'll be doing a tastings on. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to talk about some thoughts on how I've discovered bourbon. I actually discovered bourbon and country music through van life travel. My second year back in, I started in 2018, went full-time in February 2019. It was sometime later that year that I discovered bourbon. I wish I remembered where and how, but that was so many bourbons ago. I want to talk about kind of the taste bourbon as part of the tasting, some thoughts on that for you if you're not familiar. And then I want to talk about just how you can discover bourbon. It's kind of ebbed and flowed over the decades, and there's definitely been a big peak. I don't think it's going away anytime soon, but it's leveled off just a little bit, which is kind of interesting. So talk about how to discover bourbon. I tell you some of my stories on how I have met the distiller. I got some ideas there for you, and the best things about sharing bourbon and some ideas on how you can learn about bourbon. So that's what we want to give you a little bit on tonight. Just again, thank you for being here. Appreciate that. And watching the replay. Let us know where you're watching from. Always curious about that. If you have a question, if you can help me out with the question format, 3 asterisks, 3 question marks, that helps me see your question more readily. And what I thought I might do is just get the very first tasting going, and then I'll give you a little bit of 101 on the on the bourbon 101. So I'm going to switch over to the bourbon cam. There we go. So the first one I want to talk about as part of a tasting is comes out of Kentucky. This is, let me zoom down here for 1 second. So this is 1792. It is 90 proof, and it's made in Kentucky. And I discovered this actually in Kentucky a while back. And does anybody know where the 1792 comes from? Elevation in Kentucky? I'll give you hints about that. This is pretty easy to find. It's very reasonably priced. It's a high quality product for what you get, in my opinion. 1792 is the year that Kentucky was admitted into the Union. I've got a half ounce in here. What I'll do is kind of stack these up as we go so you can see the different levels of darkness in the glass, or in the color of the liquid. So it's to my palate, I like it neat. It is very mild, a little fruity. Let me know what you're drinking tonight, if anything. Iced tea is fine. It's really easy. So if you are kind of new to bourbon, I would put this on your list because it is very easy, very smooth. And I try and keep this in my cabinet. If we're just looking for a little bourbon, that is what I would go to. Because again, it's like $35 for the bottle, and it's really high quality. It's not in every bar, should be, and that's what that is. So that's 1792 small batch. Let me kind of run up on what we're going to give you on the Bourbon 101, in case you don't know. Let me kind of go through these quickly. So what's kind of interesting is that bourbon must be made in the U.S. What that means is a little bit like champagne in Champagne, France. Yeah, you can't call champagne, if it's not made in Champagne, France. Champagne has to be sparkling wine or something like that. Bourbon is the same thing. It's unique to America, but what you can do, everything else can be made worldwide, but it must be called whiskey. Only bourbon is made in the U.S., which is kind of interesting. The mash bill, that's kind of the recipe of the grain, must be at least 51% corn. Most lift that up to about 70% corn, and that is where the sweetness of the bourbon comes from. And it's a very distinct taste. And then if we look further, the mash bill, which again is kind of the secret recipe of the grains, and then there's the yeast. That's also a special recipe. The mash bill again is corn, must be at least 51%. Then often barley, rye, wheat. Sometimes it's malted. My understanding of a malted other grain is that it has sprouted, which gives it a completely very distinct taste. I would say even velvety in flavor. So when I see the word malted, that means the grain has actually barely sprouted and now is changing the taste profile of the cats are fighting, of the, it gives a distinct taste profile. And this is what makes bourbon bourbon. It must be aged at least 2 years in a new charred oak barrel made from American white oak. So let that sink in for a minute. That's the big distinction on bourbon. Must be aged at least 2 years in a new charred oak barrel made from American white oak. Oftentimes, though, the better bourbons are aged well more than 2 years. Some are, I have a 25-year we'll show you here. It's been sitting around for a long time. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And the last thing here is that Kentucky bourbon makers claim that the limestone spring water from that state contributes to its unique flavor. And there's definitely some reasoning behind that because it filters differently. So it flavors the water. It is mostly water. It's an all natural product bourbon. There's no colors. There's no additives. There's no flavoring. If you're drinking, what's the famous one out there? That tastes like cinnamon, you probably know it. Or is there one that tastes like peanut butter? Those are whiskeys. They're not bourbons because bourbon cannot be flavored, dyed, or otherwise. So that's a little bit of one-on-one. There's a lot more we can go into, but I think for a start, that's kind of what it is. Let me flash this on the screen for you one more time. Take a screenshot. I've got some resources coming up to talk about this further. We've got some folks in the group. Let's say hi to them quick. We've got David. He's in Palestine, Illinois, outside of Chicago. Van camping for the weekend. Perfect time to have a little bourbon. Yes, David, it certainly is. And here's Justin. He might enjoy a libation now and again. He says, hi, all tuning in from home base, Rochester, New York. 67 degrees. That sounds so lovely. It's in the 80s here in West Palm Beach area, Florida, and sunny. And here we got Eric in the house from Arbor Rock State Park in Baraboo, Wisconsin, 80 degrees. Wow. Here's Mason Mike saying, I can't catch you live, Scott, but I'm watching the Army 250th anniversary. I'll catch the replay, no problem. Happy Flag Day also today going on. And here's Miguel just down the street. Miguel, good to see you, sir. Thanks for being here. Appreciate that. Here's Peggy currently traveling with probably the Ashley. So that's great. And here's Fair. What's up, Scott? Hope all is well. Yeah, it's going pretty well. Here's Shirley. Hey, Scott, stay safe. Yes, ma'am. Appreciate that. Here's Fitzing around. Nice to catch you live watching from Eastern Washington after avoiding the fires in the Columbia Gorge. Holy cow, I did not know about that. That's a little scary. Columbia Gorge. I wonder, is it close to Portland or more east? That's where the Columbia River runs through. So that's pretty interesting. Let's see, who else we say hi to here? Here's Aaron in the house. I am late. Did I miss that? No, sir. Let me finish this. This is, again, 1792. I'd say it's on the sweet side. You definitely taste the corn, but I taste a lot of fruit. And bourbon, we'll talk about how to drink it. I like drinking it neat so I can taste the flavors. They don't get watered down if you put ice in them. And if you're doing it in a cocktail, well, bourbon is robust enough to stand up to the other ingredients. You're kind of not, in my opinion, tasting the actual fluid that comes out of the barrel. So I would highly recommend getting a bottle of 1792. Again, it's really reasonably priced. It's a really good quality product, and it's about $35 at retail. So that's what that is. Let's go for another one here. Again, this is what's on the table. Where's my cam? There we go. What I'm going to do is put this up. How will this work? Oh, no, that doesn't work. So what I'm going to do is I got Woodford Reserve over there, but I'm going to grab the Frey Ranch. It's a 90 proof from Nevada. Not necessarily a state known for bourbon, right? So let's go over here and get that. What I have discovered is there's the usual suspects that, like Woodford there, you can see off to the left. It's kind of a staple that a lot of people really enjoy. And I think the staples should be in your bourbon collection just because they're really good go-to products. They're super consistent. They've got a little different things now and again, but I love to kind of experiment a little bit. And I think the magic is in the glass bottle, right? I think a lot of the art is in the bottle itself. And you can see why this one, I think it was about $55, $60. And this one, they're not putting much energy into the bottle. They're putting all the value in the magic liquid. And this one is it's hard to read, but this is 90 proof. And again, it comes from Nevada. So let's pour a little bit of this in here. This is a steel. You can hear that, probably not. It's a metal cap, which makes this kind of cool. So let me put a little, put a little bit in here. Now, what I have found over my bourbon experience, happy National Bourbon Day, is that oftentimes they would distill it from the recipe of grains, water, and yeast, and then they would actually age it in states like Colorado, Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, maybe even Illinois, because they have 4 seasons. The magic of bourbon, you're probably aware of, is that it's the in and out of the liquid based on exterior temperatures that makes it leach into the wood when it's hot, and then it extracts the liquid from the wood, which gives it the flavor, the color. The cats are getting the zoomies, and you can't do that when it's always 70 or 80 or 90 degrees in Nevada. So they have to probably, if we read the fine print here, it says something like that. But let's give this a try. Just again, I want to show you the difference in color. This one is, I would say, significantly darker. Let's see if we can find the age on this. I should have my glass on. This also is a 90 proof. This is batch number 12. It's from Frey Ranch in Fallon, Nevada. So here's the mash bill. Let me see if I can see this. Should have got my glasses. So the mash bill is 66% yellow corn, 10% winter wheat, 11% winter rye. Rye I found is being a little spicy. And then it's a 12% two-row barley, malted on site, meaning it's just sprouted. So let's give this a try. Let's see what this says. And in the glass, you can see it's a little bit darker, I would think, right? Completely different flavor profile. I would say this one doesn't have a real deep depth, richness. And I think a good bourbon kind of hits your tongue, and then as you kind of taste it on your tongue, swirl it around your mouth a little bit, then swallow it. The taste, I've been told this from a distiller, should actually still build taste as you're swallowing the liquid. This one doesn't really have that effect. It's very lightweight, great for beginners. This one, Frey Ranch, is definitely got more body. You can see the color difference is dramatic. I can definitely tell that it's got some different flavor profiles from the grain. It does have a little bit of silkiness, I think, from the malting. And it says distilled from 4 slow grown grains. Fallon, Nevada. Somebody looked that up to see where that is compared to, I don't know, Las Vegas and Reno. I would recommend this one. I don't remember the exact price. I can't remember how I found it. But this one's a good one. A good flavor profile without being overly overpowering, I guess is the best way to say it. All right, let's talk about some ways to discover bourbon. And then we'll get into our next tasting. Discover Bourbon. There's my notes right here. Discover Bourbon. So here's my recommendation for you. And certainly in the bourbon country, Tennessee, Indiana, Kentucky, you're going to have no problem finding some good bourbons. But I think to discover bourbon, you actually need to go to a good bourbon bar, is one recommendation. I've found over the years that if you're traveling in your van or otherwise, in those two states in particular, Kentucky and Tennessee, you're going to find them to have a superb collection of bourbon. I was at a Mexican restaurant in New Albany, Indiana, and while they focused on tequila, they had a better bourbon selection than most bars around the West Palm Beach area. It was pretty incredible. So I would seek out a bar that does have a good bourbon collection. I'm not talking about, Jim Beam, some of the regulars, right? I can't even think of them because I don't really use those. But and then ask the bartender for some advice. Kind of recognize the bottles and ask them for some advice about the bourbons. Maybe see the bottle before they pour it. A lot of the good bourbon bars will let you kind of examine the bottle, and you can see some of the different things, so you know what you're drinking. Unless it's a really good bourbon bar, they're not going to know a lot about it. So they won't let you pour it, obviously, but you can certainly examine the bottle. And then what a lot of them do is the better bourbon bars is they pour it for you. Oh, turn it this way. And then what they do is they actually put the bottle behind your glass, so you can kind of examine the bottle as you drink it. So you can kind of seep it in, and then you get to learn more as you're enjoying it, right? And in my opinion, you don't do shots of bourbon, you do sips of bourbon. It's kind of like wine. Get a little nose, you're not really there to get drunk on it. You're just enjoying the various flavors, because it all comes out of the still basically as pure alcohol. And then it's this process of aging in wood barrels that gives it this very distinct bourbon. So this one's a good one. I do like that one a lot. Let me also say, if you have a better liquor store in your area, here in Southern Florida, we got ABC, and then Total Wine. Both of them have pretty good liquor selections. Strangely, some of the mom and pop liquor stores, if you know what you're looking for, might have a couple bottles that are really hard to find in those other two big high volume retailers. And the prices may be good or bad, but they might have something you've been looking for. And I would recommend this every time you're in one of those stores, sniff through it. Even some of the better grocery stores have a pretty decent selection. Sometimes has a special price, special selection. Oftentimes, and ask the clerks, ask the store manager, do they have demo days? So a lot of times, this is a small brand and they're carrying it. And so for the day on a Saturday, whatever, whoops, sorry, there we go. You can, they'll let you know when this representative is going to be in, and you can go talk to them. You usually get free samples, and you can talk to them about, well, they're not the distiller, they're representing the brand, so they know a whole lot about it. And I love doing that. If you go to Costco and eat chip samples and I don't know, all the stuff they have at Costco, it's kind of the same thing. A lot of times they have two, like on weekends in particular. So I would highly recommend that. And then talk to them about the story. There's another, if you watch this program, have your device off to the side, Google search Wide World of Whiskey. This is a nationwide event that goes on through several cities. And it's called Wide World of Whiskey because it sounds better than Wide World of Bourbon, I guess. But they have, no, get down. It's a single ticket, like $100 maybe, but you can taste all these different bourbons. And it's a great way to experiment with your taste buds. Some of the big guys are there, but oftentimes it's the craft folk. So search for A Wide World of Whiskey. And I think you will find that pretty interesting. Those are great ways to discover bourbon without spending a fortune. Should we try the next one? And I would say also that, like wine, some of these open up with a little bit of out of the bottle air. Or it's just my taste buds. I don't know. Okay. Let's go to the next one, and then we'll hit some suggestions of how to meet the distiller. This is pretty cool. Let's go back to the bar cam. Oh my gosh, this one's going to be really interesting. Before we do the next taste test, let's get some questions here. Fair says, I like you have a whiskey show on TV. Yeah, we used to do Libation Live on What's Up Wednesday. We don't do that anymore. But I thought it would be kind of fun on National Bourbon Day to celebrate. I just love sharing this stuff. And again, I discovered bourbon through VanLife. And it's such an interesting product. How it came about. I'm going to show you some resources. You can go learn about this tonight. His fits around saying, currently my favorite bourbon is Jack Daniel's, 12 years old. I know some don't think it's bourbon. Yeah, some of the better, like Jack Daniel's, Wild Turkey, some of those better kind of special aged and what have yous are really pretty good. But there's usually a Jack Daniel's, a Jim Beam, in the bars because that's just kind of the staple go-to. But Southern Comfort's kind of one. So SoCo Lime, right? I've not had one of those in a long time. And even like Royal Crown Royal, It's a whiskey because it comes out of Canada. So those are all good, you know. Um, Scott, how are you feeling? Oh, good. As long as I don't watch the news. Um, Here's Quilter for Charity, Robin. Hello, Scott. Just back from Embassy Rally. Welcome back home to Huntsville, Texas. Yeah, I'm supposed to call Terry from Embassy RV next week and get a check in with him, but it sounded like it was a great time. All right, let me share this one with you. And by the way, what's going on behind me is one of these documentaries I'm going to recommend to you to help you learn about bourbon in like 60 minutes. It's pretty great. So this is, let's see, Meet the Distiller. We talked about that. We're going to do that next. Okay, so let me show you this one. Let me roll back up to the bourbon tasting one. So this one is, this is Southern Star Paragon. It's 114 proof. I did these a little out of order. Sorry about that. This is the bottle. I think this was actually a gift to me from a channel, VanLife, Go Small Live Large friend. This is a very, very different taste. So what's the story here? And it's kind of cool. It's probably hard to see here. You see the hand numbering? This is cask strength wheated, which means it's going to have a high wheat content. But you can see that here because they're hand labeling these as they come out. This comes from cask strength, which means it's not been watered down to a certain proof level. And if I spin this around, what did I say it was? Yeah, this one's 114 proof. So this gives your taste buds a little bit of a zing. This is the batch number, barrel number. And then I just love these because that means a human being actually had to do something with this. There's more writing right there. So these are always kind of cool. Product of USA, and of course, it's bourbon. That's so funny. All right, this one I've tasted, and I really don't know what to think of it. It did win some awards, but again, you can see the difference in color, right? Trying to turn this way. I mean, this one is pretty dark. This one, which one am I looking at? This one. This one. This one's a lot darker, right? I don't see that I see where it's aged, but let's see what this says. So is there any left in this one? Yeah, a little bit. So you can see this one, which is the Paragon, is significantly darker, right? If I give it a little nose, it almost smells grassy. I mean, it's grass, it's moss, it's really strong right up front. And again, it's 114 proof, which means it's more alcohol content right from cask strength. So that's how it is in the coming out of the barrel. A lot of times they add water to bring it down to a certain proof level. This one's just as it is from the barrel. Kind of a traditional whiskey style bottle. And these guys come out of North Carolina, which is kind of interesting. So distilled in Huntsville, North Carolina. They may actually age it there. I'm looking for, I need my glasses. I wish some of these labels would be printed in senior citizen print because yeah, I can't read it. I was looking for the mash bill. But it's a very different flavor. I think either you're going to love it or hate it. Get down, 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 down. Grass, moss, maybe even like tree bark. I mean, it's very earthy in flavor. So I think you're either going to love this or not. If you're looking for something different, this is a good one. And when I do a tasting kind of like this, what I like to do with friends and campers is get a couple, 3 bottles out so you can kind of taste the differences between them. So we're going to talk about sharing here in a few minutes, but I think it's really fascinating to taste the differences and to have everybody kind of go through and say what it's their taste buds. There's no wrong answer, but how do you taste it? It's growing on me though. It's very earthy. So again, Southern Star Paragon single barrel. That's a big term. We're going to talk about that. Also, meaning it only comes from one barrel. A lot of times these distillers combine a bunch of barrels to go to a single profile. This would probably be a good example. Woodford Reserve, unless it's a single barrel, blend all the flavors to get to a single flavor profile that's very consistent all the time. Woodford's very famous for that. They're all famous for that, unless it comes from a single barrel cast strength, which is pretty cool. I put this on your list if you're looking for something different. Again, you're going to love it or hate it is my thinking. It's bold. It's very earthy. Let's look at some more. Let's see what's up next. So we're going to do Bray Ranch. We're going to do Yellowstone next. So let's talk about sharing, some tips for sharing. And here's another piece of advice on this. So when you're in a bar and they've got some of the usuals and some of the new stuff, and you've kind of experimented with some of this, and you have a couple recommendations, see if you can talk to the bar manager, the bartender, maybe the owner, say, hey, I'm a bourbon aficionado, novice or whatever, and say, here's a couple you might want to consider adding to your collection here, because it brings people in. You don't need to have 600 bottles. But if you got 5 of the usuals and that's it, it's, as a bourbon drinker, I probably wouldn't go unless I'm going for something completely different, like a burger and a beer. Make sense? All right. So let's talk about, meet the distiller. I love this part. So, as RVers or wannabes, I think one of the best programs we have is Harvest Hosts. Harvest Hosts are known for farms, dairies, wine, beer, distilleries, churches, all kinds of different places. They're commercial ventures where they're expecting you to roll in and spend a few bucks at their business. What I've found is that Harvest Hosts with distilleries are really, really cool. Oftentimes you get to meet the maker. You can do a flight without spending a gazillion dollars. You don't have to buy the bottle, but if something really hangs out on your taste budget and you love, then buy the bottle. Then you got a little bit of a story to share when you get back home. So try the flight. They're usually reasonably priced. And again, you can ask and learn. And if they have a couple barrel types, so there's a blend, there's a single barrel, there's cask strength. And so let's say they've done a high rye, but single barrel. See if you can get 2 different bottles with the same single barrel, and you find out that they're completely different in taste. I did this with Wilderness Trail, and I was stunned. Same everything, except it was from 2 different barrels. And because of where the barrels were placed in the rick house where they store these, it was a completely different taste profile. And if that really hits your taste buds well, then buy that bottle. Now you got a really good story, right? Distillery tours. Raise your hand if you've been on a distillery tour. Wilderness Trail has a great one. Buffalo Trace, I'm told, has a great one. Rabbit Hole has a great one. Downtown Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. And here again, they got flights. They walk you through the whole process. And it's a great way to learn about what makes theirs special. And again, meeting the maker is pretty good. And you can taste the difference between oftentimes a single barrel and a blend. And right away, it's like, wow, that's really different. So a lot of times when I see a single barrel, particularly if you tasted it in advance, you know what you're going to get. Those are usually more expensive, but it's a great way to get a story and get exactly what hits your taste buds. Yeah, I'll get to other questions here in just a minute. These are great. So distillery tours. harvest hosts. Those are two great things. The other thing to do is actually go to the distillery and learn about the product. My first one was Castle and Key, very storied complex where their product is made. Heaven Hills, which is a constellation of brands, including Elijah Craig, Larceny, and a whole bunch of others. You can actually go and bottle your own booze, which is pretty cool. But there again, you get to learn about what makes theirs different. You tour the entire production facility. Whiskey Thief is another one. It's a harvest host site. I would highly recommend that. I learned about through an audience angel, and I went there, and it was something really special about taking the bourbon out of the barrel and putting it in your own bottle. It was such a great experience. There's the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. If you have this on your bucket list, you don't need to do all of them. I swear to God, every year this thing doubles in size. It's kind of like a passport, and you buy the book, and then kind of over time, you can put, which ones you've been to, choose which ones are really exciting based on your route plan. I think Tennessee has the same thing. So I would highly recommend doing the field guide to the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. Excuse me. And I think Tennessee has one too. But they established this in 1999, and it's one of the best things. And again, you don't need to cover all of them unless you got like a whole month. Hold on. That's much better. Thank you for your patience. Say tours. I talked about that. Festivals. Holy smokes. So the biggie is the Kentucky Bourbon Festival. It's in Bardstown. I went 2 years ago. A bunch of y'all went this year. I'm probably going to put that on my list for next year. September. It's mid-September, Bardstown. And there's a whole bunch of little towns around there. And a lot of these are within the same distance. And therefore, again, an entry ticket, you get 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And there's a place they camp nearby. There's a state park. And there's the big guys there on this side. And then there's the small guys, the craft guys, not from Nevada generally, but from the Kentucky area. And here again, you can taste some of the innovations that both the big guys and the small guys are doing. It's really incredible. Pace yourself. I learned that the hard way. And so search for festivals in your area. Again, the Wide World of Whiskey Festival. Also, even here in Florida, there's bourbon and bacon festivals. So if you're looking for a reason to have a weekend away in your van or just do something for the day, look for those festivals in your area. That's a great way to kind of, again, talk to the maker, get the story. A lot of them will sign. I've got, not here, but at another location here at the base camp, where I've had the distiller sign the bottle, and it's really, really pretty cool. You feel like a fan. So it's a fan. So it's a great reason to plan a VanLife road trip. Let's say hi to some other folks here, and then we're going to talk about some ideas on sharing bourbon. I have some distinct ideas on that for you, and then we'll talk about cocktails, and then some resources for it. Then we'll call it a wrap. So let's see. Here is here's Kelly Carabab does a bourbon tasting for the 4-course meal. Where are they located? That is cool. I've not heard of that before. Carabas? I'll have to look that up after this. Miguel's got a question here. Do you like Scotch whiskey? That is just that peat taste. To my taste buds, tastes like blue cheese. I can't get past it. So I've tried, and it just doesn't sit well with my palate, and that's okay. Not everybody's going to be into this. If you're into the Scotch, that's great. It's very distinctive, but I just like the bourbon or whiskey in particular. So here is Fitzing Around. Have you been to the Whiskey Bar? That's the name, in Fort Collins, Colorado. Heading there in a couple weeks with family. I love that. No, I've not been there. I really haven't been to Fort Collins, Colorado. I do love Colorado, one of my top 5 states. Um, I will tell you that if you're in Kentucky, it's Elizabethtown. It's got one of the best bourbon bars I've ever been to, called the Bourbon Barrel. And if you're in Bardstown, the Volstead is, it is such a, like literally 800 bottles of bourbon. You get in there and I go into like a library or something. It's like, where do you start? And they usually ask, well, what do you like? So that's why you do these things. So you get a little bit of flavor profile. What do you like? What don't you like? And then they can make a couple recommendations. And a good bourbon bar I've discovered, not only will they pour you 1 or 2, maybe 3 in front of you based on state law, again, to put the bottle in front of you so you can kind of taste the 3 against each other. So that's why I love doing that. Here's Justin. I just looked that up and it seems like a great idea. I had no idea they did. Kelly 945. Okay, so that's the Carrabba's. Interesting. Says just did that with friends last week, and the raffle basket at the end was phenomenal. Oh, interesting. Uh-oh. There's Ms. Sup. I don't drink, but I've used many breweries as gifts. Good for you. Good to see you, man. Ms. Sup. Here's a distillery tours, definitely on the to-do list when we make it to the East Coast. One of the better bourbons I had, which was a gift from an audience angel, came out of someplace crazy, like Rhode Island or something. So they distilled it, then they aged it somewhere else. It was a little tiny Revolution, I want to say it was called. Man, it was really good. And I would recommend keeping a log. I've done a good and bad job at that over the years. So here's Dave saying, hi, Scott, how's it going? Trust you are well. It's 77 degrees in Fairfax, Virginia. Good to see you. Doing okay. Appreciate that. And here's Terry, got a good question. I know you can get in trouble for open containers in the car, but are there rules for carrying it in the van? Yes, it's okay to carry it open in the van as long as it's in the cabinets where the living space is, not in your cup holder. So clearly it's an RV, and I've had that confirmed by many folks, even some police folks. As long as it's not within driving distance, as long as nobody's really consuming it at the table behind you, driving, it's fine. If it's stored in a closed cabinet in the back, that probably is fine. Yeah, whether you're into wine, I'm more into this than wine, but Biltmore State has a great wine tour. Good to know. All right, let me share with you some ways to share bourbon. This one, by the way, is, thank you for that. Appreciate that. This is a great, and I discovered this in Golden, Colorado. This is Breckenridge. It's really good. If you get your hands on one of these, it's really smooth, probably a full-bodied taste, low proof. Their claim to fame, again, it's called Breckenridge. It's they dilute it, they cut it to a certain proof point by adding melted Colorado mountain snow. That's what. It's really not that expensive. It's really good if you get your hands on that. Here's my suggestion on bourbon or wine or beer, whatever you're kind of into. I think if you're going camping with a bunch of friends, take a bottle of kind of regular stuff that's easy to find, right? What everybody's familiar with, and then something that's a little off the beaten path for people to try it. Now, in our tribe, Go Small, Live Large, we get together and camp out, and I guess we've kind of established the habit of putting a table in front of one of the vans, and we put the bottles there, and then in the evening we have a libation hour or two. And again, you can sample all the different flavors, and it's really fascinating. So I highly recommend that. And if you've been to where this was made, you can kind of tell about the story a little bit. And again, it just kind of validates what van life is all about, for me at least, and many of you, which is curiosity, learning, sharing. So I'd highly recommend that. Have a dinner party. And I wouldn't want to serve like chicken parmigiana and do a bunch of bourbon, but maybe you're doing steak or, I don't know, grilled chicken teriyaki, something that's got some pretty bold flavors. And do the same thing. Invite a few friends over, tell them to bring a bottle of bourbon. either an old favorite or something that's new, and do the same thing. Just taste a couple different ones, and you can kind of learn something new, right? Which is pretty awesome. And then I would recommend having, certainly if you're in a better bourbon bar, see if you can get 3, even half pours based on state law, and see if you can put the bottles in front of you so you can really do some examination and tasting those very differently in profile. This is the it is so different. This would be good with a hearty meal. Got a very, man, it is earthy, grassy, mossy bark. No nutty flavor, no fruit flavor to my palate. All right, a couple more things and we'll call it a wrap. Let me go grab the last one we're going to taste, which is Yellowstone. So we'll go to the bottle can, bourbon can. And switch back over to camera 1. Here we are. Let me know if you're having fun. So this is found in a lot of the better bourbon section of better liquor stores. There's quite a different variations of Yellowstone. It has nothing to do with the TV program, has nothing to do with the park that I'm aware of. It's a very distinct plain bottle, but a very distinctive label. And what's interesting about this one, I think this was, I can't remember, I think this was a gift too from a channel viewer. I always love that. Thank you for that. This is the Special Finishes Collection. It is from Kentucky. It's 100 proof. It's been toasted. So they've toasted the grain a little bit. Comes out of Lebanon, Kentucky. There's a little bit of the story. Let's see if they got the mash bill on here. If you ever get to the Four Roses distillery tour, that one is spot on, 100 proof. Okay, so how much was this one, did we say? This is 114, right? So let's see if we can taste the difference on this. Oh, no! Oh, no! Well, we might be drinking this bottle tonight. Let's see, do I have a wine opener in here? Hold on. Get down, down. Not that way. Oh, my God, cat, don't knock anything off. This, oh, my God. This is Jack, by the way. I don't know where Jill is. Oh, she's over sleeping. Go meet your sister. Damn. All right, let me see if I can get the wine opener. That means the cork is really dried out. I've had this. What should I do? Push it in? Filter it with my teeth? I guess so. Woo! That always sucks. All right, so again, 100 proof. So you can see the difference here, right? Minus the cork floating. This one's darker. I think this one gets the darkest liquid award for sure. I don't know. Yep, this one does. All right, let's taste this. We're going to have a little cork flavor. So again, Yellowstone. This one's got a lot of nut flavor. I think my taste buds have been burned by this one. Let's see if I can do this quick. And just a drop or two of water totally changes the taste, right? Try it again. It doesn't taste like 100 proof to me. I would say for 100 proof, this one is pretty mild. They've been making it since 1872. That one's good. I would say that it kind of finishes flat. Where the rest of these, you can kind of taste the alcohol all the way down, but I think the flavor for me kind of ends before the swallow is done. I've lost track of which one. This one. So let me share just a couple more things with you. I think this is kind of interesting. Cocktails. Where am I at here? Hope we're having fun. And since there are a few more questions, here's Aaron. Oh, we talked about that. That's great. Yes. Have you tried Penelope Havana Straight? It's like an old fashioned in a glass. I agree with you about Scotch. I have not tried that. We're going to talk about cocktails next. So I'll kind of give you my what's up on that. So here's Leonard Simpson. God love you, sir. I owe you communication. Fun fact: tequila is Mexico. In Mexico, is made only 35% alcohol versus 40% in U.S. Much smoother. We have been tasting at least 4 tequilas in Mexico. Better tequila, I can actually do neat. I found that margaritas give me a headache because of all the sugar. They're very tasty, but the better tequilas I like to drink neat, actually. No lime or anything. And here's Fitzing Around. Look for the Breckenridge when we get to Colorado. Yeah, you can actually find it. A lot of, even our Publix here locally have it. Not overly expensive, $40 maybe for a bottle. And it's really smooth. Aaron's getting tipsy just watching. All right. And Fitzing Around says you can see the Yellowstone Ranch from Highway 93 just outside of Darby, Montana. It's not far off the road. Can't wait to get back to Montana. Okay, let me share some thoughts on bourbon cocktails. So I don't really do bourbon cocktails very often because I want to taste the bourbon. Now, if you're going to a good bourbon bar, what I don't do is I don't want an old fashioned. I don't want a Manhattan. Those are kind of everywhere. But I want to taste maybe something that's unique to them. Maybe they got some rosemary in it. Maybe the little smoking thing, a smoking gun type thing. So if they have something that they're pretty proud of and it's really unique, I'll probably try that either before or after, just a little bit of neat. Because I just enjoy tasting what the liquid tastes like. Nothing wrong with a cocktail, for sure. Yeah, this one is, it is so different. It's bold. So that's kind of my story on bourbon cocktails. If you're kind of new to this, I would highly recommend getting some advice from the bartender. They usually have a list of things they're really good at making. And if it's kind of unique and you look at the ingredients, certainly if it's kind of different, I might give it a try. And they're usually not much more expensive than just a pour of this. It's kind of fun to watch them make it if they're really good at it. So nothing wrong with a cocktail, in my opinion. Let's talk about learning about bourbon. And this is something I've been really excited about over the last few years. When I go to a distillery or they have a gift shop usually. So I've gotten some really good books over the years. I used to have all these in my van. Now they're in here. This one's kind of cool because it talks about the dreamers, visionaries, and badasses who are revolutioning American whiskey. So again, it talks about the people. So now you can kind of look this up on your route plan and see if these are on your route plan. And for me, something like this, having a few books on this kind of thing is cool versus digital. This one is really good. It's kind of focused on barrel strength bourbon. And it's a very different approach than a blend because you don't really know what you're going to get. But again, it's the different distilleries. You can learn about them. Put them on your route plan. for me, just even sitting there just reading one or two brand chapters, if you will. It talks about how they came up with it, how they make it, and I may or may not put that on my list. This book I highly recommend. This is a great one. I got this at a distillery, can't remember where. It's a really fantastic book. It's written in really simple English. It talks about everything. It's Bourbon 101, beautifully made, what to look for when you go to a liquor store. And it kind of walks you through the whole process, start to finish. Many of these I've been to. Evan Williams, that's a great one. I think it's a Buffalo Trace brand, but really inexpensive, really high quality. So I'd recommend this book for sure, Bourbon 101. This one is kind of cool. It's for the bourbon curious. A tasting, I can't read it backwards. Tasting guide for the savvy drinker, blah, blah, blah. It too brings us through some really interesting stuff. And new history, new twist on the same idea. I think they even have some recipes in here, tasting notes. Just talks about how it's made, what have you. This one's a lot of fun. This actually was a gift to me from Storyteller Overland. And this is camp cocktails. And this is things you can make with all kinds of booze. Not really about bourbon, but they got some really fun ones. Like this is a s'mores. We're going to start trying some of these. There's the penicillin today. Maybe that's what I need. I don't know. Get rid of my sniffles. There's the spiked Arnold Palmer. So I do keep this in the van. And next time we do a camp out or something like that, here's dandelion honey. Maybe we'll put the ingredients out and everybody's assigned a cocktail. That'd be kind of fun, right? Here's campsite Irish coffee. So that's a good one. Camp cocktails, pretty awesome. The other thing I would recommend is to learn is to get two documentaries. One's been playing behind me this last hour. I'm going to end here in just a couple minutes. And I have to thank Joe Russo of Kate and Joe Russo. We're the Russos. They taught me about this documentary. It's 1 hour long called Neat, the story of bourbon. And I would look that up on your Apple TV or it might be on YouTube. I don't know. But it's called Neat, the story of bourbon. And it talks about how bourbon is made, start to finish. And then there's another one. This is actually what's playing behind me. This is kind of the next step up, which is called Straight Up, the story of bourbon. But it focuses only on Kentucky bourbon. So it's got some of these brands we've talked about. Castle and Key is in here. It gives a great 101 on how it started and how Kentucky became kind of the first place where all this started. So I'd really encourage those books. Look these up today. It's a really easy watch. Some of these guys are now past, I'm afraid to say, but it talks about Prohibition a little bit. And it's just been a fascinating, if you can't, not good at reading, then watching is a good way to go. And then the other thing I would do is make a bourbon log. I've not been great at this, but let me show you mine quick. So if I'm reading an article, there's a lot of online bourbon magazines. So what I try and do is do something like this. So I've got search for that bottle, buy this bottle, add this to the collection, and then there's just kind of the general supply. I've got that in my head now. But when I see a bottle of bourbon, that is like this is a Knob Creek aged 18 years. So again, if you're in the liquor store, a good bourbon store selection, I bring that list up and see if any of that's in there. If there's a bourbon section person kind of manning it, you can run through that list. Most of these are pretty reasonable in price. I'm not sure I'd pay more than 100, 150 for a bottle of booze, but I have one that's actually pretty expensive, given to me by Audience Angel. Wait for this. These are not available anymore. This comes from Arkansas Tracy. He's not a bourbon guy, but managed to buy this someplace. This is a 25th anniversary single barrel Knob Creek. It's got the hand labeled thing. This goes for about, you can still find them in the secondhand market. Goes for anywhere from $300 to $500, because again, they don't make this anymore. It is exceptional. And if you're a bourbon aficionado, we will have a little sip of this together, because it's super rare, super hard to find, super expensive. And Knob Creek's one of my favorite brands. They're 9 year, 12 years, really, really good, which is pretty great too. So let's just look for some more questions quick, and then we'll call it a wrap. Really appreciate you joining me for celebrating National Bourbon Day. A little bit of happiness, where the whole hellscape of the world is going on around us this weekend, which is pretty crazy. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Scott, you introduced to Woodford Double Oaked on the What's Up Wednesday, and now it's our go-to for the fall and winter. It's so yummy. It's worth the extra few bucks. And if you're a Costco member, go check out their hard liquor section. A lot of times you can find these rare bottles, and their double oaked Woodford is a double size for like $60. It's insane. The volume is twice, the price is the same as the regular small little bottle. That should be in everybody's. Oh, you want to say hi? Oh. Say hi quick.
I've been on.
I hear you back in the background. That's Kyle, everybody.
I just kind of woke up.
Oh my God. Well, it's time for bed. What the hell? So yeah, Woodford Double Oak. That's a must-have in any collection. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being here for celebrating National Bourbon Day. Hopefully you'll learn something. And we got a lot of big news coming out this week. And got a new video tomorrow. It's me urban camping in downtown Philadelphia. I show you exactly where I know you're crunching the bag.
Oh.
And I'm going to show you exactly where to street camp in downtown Philadelphia very safely. And it's a whole pub crawl and some history about Philadelphia you may not be aware of. Watch that video tomorrow. I'm really excited about that. All right, folks, what we like to say is journey on. Get your journey on if you're still shopping for your van, and peace be with you. Really appreciate you being here tonight. Have a safe weekend. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.